King Lecent of the Kingdom of Orlando is sitting in his study at the moment, looking through the edicts handed over by the ministers of the kingdom and documents from all over the kingdom. This is something that Lecent, the leader of a country, has insisted on doing every day for decades. As the king of the Kingdom of Orlando, Lecent is actually a very ambitious man. Ever since he dared to use the Cairo Empire, judging from the fact that the pressure from the Daos family, one of the four major families, gradually deprived the Todd family of the kingdom's martial arts family's rights, it seemed that he was more powerful than the previous king of the kingdom. In the past, it usually only took Nexent an hour to process these routine documents. However, at this moment, he had been sitting in the study for a whole morning, but he had only processed less than half of the pile of documents in front of him, and there was no trace of them at all. Reduction in its thickness. Alas! Lecent sighed heavily, put down the pen in his hand, and cast his blurred eyes on the magnificent wall in front of him. The condition of the eldest prince, Dios, has deeply troubled Lecent's heart in the past 2 months. In Stern Continent, the heirs are arranged in descending order, and the eldest prince is the number one in the kingdom. As for the heir, Lecent had been secretly training the eldest prince as the crown prince of the kingdom, and the eldest prince's ability did make Lecent feel a little relieved. But now the eldest prince's illness has made Lecent feel extremely irritable. He used to be gentle, but he seems to be more irritable in daily life, and he has also lost weight in the past 2 months. Your Majesty, Master Rudolph and Master Saha are outside asking for an audience. At this moment, the waiter's voice suddenly came from outside the study door. Lecent frowned as his thoughts were interrupted, and a hint of irritation suddenly arose in his heart. However, when he heard that it was Master Rudolph asking for an audience, he calmed down his irritability and said, "Let them in." The waiter who received the order quickly invited the 3 Jasons who were waiting outside the side hall and brought them into Lecent's study. "Master Rudolph, Master Saha, what can I do with you two?" Seeing the 2 of them coming in, Lecent stood up with great enthusiasm. To be honest, Lecent was quite annoyed that Rudolph and others were unable to do anything about the eldest prince's condition. If possible, the angry Lecent would have wanted to kill the low-ranking elixir masters in the medicine hall. After beheading and then severely reprimanding Rudolph, Bispham, the only one in the medicine hall of the Kingdom of Orlando who had prepared the sobering potion, was somewhat satisfied. However, elixir masters are different from ordinary healers. Lacant just thought about it when he was extremely upset. He would never dare to chop off the heads of a few elixir masters, unless he didn't want the entire kingdom. "Your Majesty." Seeing Lecent personally greet him, Rudolph and Saha saluted hurriedly, while Jason also stood aside and saluted slightly. "Haha, Master Rudolph, Master Saha, you don't have to be polite." Lecent came to the 2 of them and patted their shoulders intimately. Then he turned his attention to Jason and looked at the 2 of them. Asked, "Who is this?" "Your Majesty, this is the Master Jason I told you about." Master Jason is extremely profound in the study of elixirs. It can be said that he was promoted to the senior elixir master because of Master Jason's advice. Although Lecent behaved docilely in front of Saha, Saha did not dare to overstep in the slightest and remained respectful. "Oh? Are you the Master Jason that Master Bispham and Master Saha mentioned? You are indeed young and promising." As the king of a country, Lecent Rao was very strong-minded. He was shocked when Saha said that the young man in front of him was the Master Jason who mentored him and Bispham. Although Lecent Rao he was not an elixir master, but he also knew that the strength of an elixir master was generally proportional to his age. When he thought about it, Master Jason should be an old man, or at least a middle-aged man, but he didn't expect that he would actually be a teenager. Seeing Jason, Nexent couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. As the king of the Kingdom of Orlando, he naturally understood that people should not be judged by their appearance. However, at this time, anyone would doubt whether Jason had any this ability, after all, is a problem that even the kingdom's number 1 elixir master, Master Rudolph, the 5th-level senior elixir master, and the other elixir masters in the kingdom cannot solve with all their efforts. How can he, such a young boy, do it? Your Majesty, I heard from Sahan that His Royal Highness the Prince of the Kingdom has a strange disease, so I was invited by Master Saha to come and have a look. However, I cannot guarantee that I can cure His Highness the Prince's disease. Please also ask Your Majesty, please forgive me. Although the person who appeared in front of Jason was the head of a country, Jason's expression did not show any embarrassment or unnaturalness. In his previous life, he had never seen any kind of person, even the one who unified the Stern continent. The Emperor of the Lingdo Empire would treat him respectfully when they saw him. As the king of a kingdom, Jason would naturally not be timid. Although the disappointment in Lee Sin's eyes only flashed past, the shrewd Jason caught it at once. He did not boast. Although he was quite confident in himself, he still did not finish his words. The confidence in Jason's heart did not come out of thin air, but his confidence in his own strength. If someone said that he could defeat him in martial arts, Jason would naturally believe it, but if someone said that he could defeat him in spiritual medicine, if he surpasses him, then Jason will have to compete with his opponent. With Jason's eyesight that is 3,000 years ahead of this era, even if he cannot cure Dios's disease now, he can still find out the cause of Dios and give a treatment plan. In Stern Continent, it is said that elixirs are right. There is probably no one who has more knowledge than him. This young man is not simple. As soon as he heard Jason's words, this thought flashed through Lee Sin's mind. His tone was neither humble nor arrogant. He didn't appear embarrassed at all when he saw him. There was no such thing as ordinary people in the palace. He was so stunning, his eyes were like a deep pool of clear water, bottomless, and his words revealed an extremely powerful confidence that Nexent couldn't help but be infected by him. Rudolph on the side has been silently listening to the conversation between the two, feeling the strong confidence in Jason's tone. He who didn't really believe in Jason at first couldn't help but feel a little shaken at this moment. The so-called one person's confidence is directly proportional to his ability. With Rudolph's eyesight, he can naturally see that the Jason in front of him is not a boastful person. So where does his strong self-confidence come from? Could he really cure the eldest prince's disease? Rudolph was filled with doubts. But Saha on the side didn't have the slightest worry in his heart. For some reason, after spending so long with Jason, he had an almost blind confidence in Jason. Lee Sin, who was originally a little disappointed with Jason, suddenly felt a surge of hope in his heart after listening to Jason's words. After seeing that it was close to noon, Lee Sin smiled and said, "It's almost noon now. You three don't need to be busy. Let's do this. I will host a banquet for you three in the palace at noon. As for the eldest prince's condition, it's not too late to go in the afternoon. Compared to the eldest prince's condition, you elixirs are the foundation of the kingdom. Ah, I'm exhausted, this is much more serious than the eldest prince's illness." Now that the situation is critical, Lee Sin naturally wants Jason and the others to go and see Dios immediately, but it's noon now. If Saha and the others are as powerful as they said, then the king of his own kingdom should really treat others well. After all, a magician who is more powerful than Rudolph, let alone his own kingdom, even on the mainland. The emperors of the empire must also respect him extremely. He is extremely lucky to have Rudolph, the strongest in the nearby kingdom. And if you think about it, the eldest prince's condition is not a matter of a day or two. If Jason can cure the eldest prince's illness, then he can be cured. If Jason cannot be cured, then he will die sooner or later. It makes no difference even for a moment. It has to be said that at such a critical moment, Lee Sin showed extremely strong self-control as a king of a kingdom. How could Jason not understand Lee Sin's anxiety? He gave Lee Sin a slight salute and said, "Your Majesty's kindness is appreciated. However, the eldest prince's condition cannot be slowed down. In this moment, more may appear. Regarding the variables, please ask Your Majesty's approval. Let's wait until after I watch the first prince for this lunch." Hearing what Jason said, Lee Sin immediately felt grateful and said, "Since the master has said so, let's do it now." Go to the eldest prince's palace, and ask the master to lend a helping hand when the time comes. That's natural, I must do my best. Master Jason, we will set off now and accompany you together. He was anxious in his heart. Lysant could no longer stand in the palace waiting for news. After giving instructions to the attendants beside him, he led Rudolph, Saha and Jason out of the side hall. As the eldest prince, Dios lived in the side hall of the palace. Since the palace of the Kingdom of Orlando was quite huge, Jason and the others walked for a while before walking outside the side hall where the eldest prince lived. Just when Lysant and the others had just reached the gate, a group of people hurriedly walked out of the house. The leaders were 3 old men in plain clothes. They were the 3 low-level elixir masters of the Kingdom of Orlando. Everyone looked at them. Lysant saluted and said, "Your Majesty, I am late to pick you up. I hope you will forgive me. You have worked hard and done your best for our Kingdom of Orlando. Why are you guilty of this?" Everyone said with shame on their faces, "Your Majesty, the humble minister is incompetent and cannot relieve your worries." The eldest prince's condition, alas, is really everyone could not help but show a trace of worry on their faces. These days, these elixir masters, who were once majestic in the kingdom, have all lived in Dios's palace, studying Dios' condition day and night, but still can't find a solution. Lysant comforted, "Masters, don't be too humble. The marriage you have made for the kingdom will be unforgettable forever." Then he smiled and said to everyone, "Come on, everyone, these are Saha and Bis, the Master Jason that fam said." At this point, Lysant couldn't help but show a trace of doubt on his face. Right? Where's Master Bisfam? Back to your Majesty, Master Bisfam is taking potion for His Highness the Great Prince inside, so he could not come out in time to greet him. These elixir masters had already seen Rudolph and Saha when they came out, and they also saw the people standing there. Jason, who was beside Lysant, was confused about the identity of this young man, but due to Lysant's presence, he did not come forward to say hello. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be the Master Huayun that Saha said. These elixir masters have been yearning for the Master Jason that Bisfam and Saha talked about for a long time. This time Bisfam and Saha returned to the royal city as if they were completely different people. In terms of their attainments in elixir science, people can actually feel increasingly profound, and both of them have broken through to the advanced elixir master. Sometimes they will also say some profound insights that even the 5th level advanced elixir master Rudolph has realized, which makes everyone curious. Later, through the explanations of Bisfam and Saha, everyone knew that the 2 of them had been taught by a man named Jason in Talon City in the past 6 months. Especially Bisfam, they also used the lessons taught by Jason. The sobriety potion controlled the eldest prince's condition, so everyone had been fascinated by Jason for a long time, but they didn't expect it to be such a young boy, which made everyone a little surprised. After hearing Lysant's introduction, everyone stepped forward to greet Jason. However, although they called Jason Master, their tone was not very respectful. Indeed, if Jason were an old man with a clear appearance, everyone would be more respectful because of the changes in Saha and Bisfam. Many people even thought about waiting for Master Jason to come over and let him come. The thought of giving advice, but after discovering that Jason was actually just a boy of about 20 years old, despite the words of Bisfam and Saha in front of them, everyone still felt a rush to meet Rudolph at the beginning. Huayun had the same doubts. Is this young man really good? Seeing the suspicion and indifference in everyone's eyes, Jason smiled and didn't care. After greeting everyone one by one, he said to Lysant, "Your Majesty, I think we'd better go in." Okay. Under the leadership of Lysant, everyone followed Lysant into the side hall and went straight to the eldest prince's bedroom. In Dios's dormitory, Bisfam was giving Dios, who had a sallow complexion and a thin body, a sobriety potion that he had just prepared. At this moment, the door of Dios' dormitory was suddenly opened. Then a group of people walked in from outside. Bisfam has met His Majesty. After seeing that the person who came in was Lysant, Bispham hurriedly put down the things in his hands, stood up and saluted, but when Bispham raised his head, he saw arriving at Saha and Jason standing behind Nexant. "Great, Master Jason, why are you here?" A very sincere smile suddenly appeared on Bispham's face, and he came to Jason. "At the same time, I don't know why, because of the illness of the eldest Prince Dios, these things." Bispham, who had been quite tired all day, felt relaxed for no reason. "I have met my father." Seeing Lecent, Dios, who was lying on the hospital bed, hurriedly tried to stand up. After trying twice, he still couldn't sit up. Lecent hurriedly walked to the bedside, stopped Dios's movements, and then comforted him softly. "Dios, don't worry, Master Bispham and Master Saha said that Master Jason is here, he will definitely be able to cure your illness." Jason came to the bed, and Nexant naturally took 2 steps back, so that Jason could observe Dios' condition without any influence. Although Dios is the eldest prince, his actual age is not that old. He is only 31 years old, which is in his prime. Logically speaking, a prince of a kingdom should have a ruddy face and a high-spirited look. But at this moment, in front of Jason, Dios looked like a beggar who hadn't eaten in many days. His face was sallow, his lips were dry, his eyes were sunken deeply, and he was a bit thin. If Jason hadn't already known his identity, he wouldn't have been connected to a prince. However, despite being haggard like this, Jason still found that Dios's eyes were still shining and full of perseverance. After seeing Jason, he nodded slightly to express his gratitude. Jason also nodded to him, and then released his spiritual sense to observe Dios in front of him. From Dios's body, Jason did not feel the slightest fluctuation of spiritual power. It was obvious that Dios's condition was closely related to his cultivation, and psychic attacks have nothing to do with it. Then, Jason looked at Dios' eyes again and asked Dios to open his mouth. Jason's every move made everyone present extremely nervous, and Lecent didn't even dare to breathe, looking at Jason intently. "Hey!" This time, Jason suddenly discovered something different. There are some faint yellow lines on Dios' tongue, but the color is very similar to the color of the tongue coating, so it is not easy to identify. Seeing these fine lines, Jason moved his hands directly to Dios's chest, grabbed the clothes on Dios's chest, and exerted force, only to hear a chick, and the whole clothes was torn apart by Jason. "Come on, look at Dios's chest again." A faint black line is spreading on Dios's chest. This black line is extremely subtle and vague. If you don't discern carefully with purpose, you will easily miss it if you don't pay attention. "Hey, how come there is a thin black line on His Highness's chest? Why haven't we seen it before?" Because of Jason's actions, many people in the crowd also saw the thin line at this time, and they all let out a sound of surprise. It turned out to be this thing. Jason frowned deeply, and a trace of worry arose in his heart. His guess was indeed correct. What the prince received was a special curse, a death curse. "How is it, Master Jason?" Dios's illness. Lecent on the side couldn't bear it anymore and asked nervously. "Your Majesty, don't worry. Your Majesty's illness can be cured with confidence. It just requires certain materials." "Wow." After hearing Jason's affirmative answer, the surrounding elixir masters all exclaimed. "How could there be so many of them? The disease can't be cured. This guy just took a look and said it can be cured. Is this true? Isn't this too exaggerated?" However, thinking that Jason had revealed the thin black line that no one had noticed before, everyone had to admit that this Jason was indeed special. "I don't know what materials you need, Jason. As long as I have them in the Kingdom of Orlando, I can take them out right away," Lecent said excitedly. Jason's words can be said to be the only ones he has heard these days. Good news now. Western grass, sacred stone, sunfruit. Jason named several materials. "Huh?" Rudolph and others on the side all frowned and lowered their heads in thought, wondering what kind of elixir could be prepared from the materials Jason mentioned, but what surprised them was that there was no such elixir in their memories. Elixirs are prepared from these materials. Under Leeson's instructions, a guard on the side quickly ran out. "Master Jason, I wonder what kind of disease Dios is suffering from?" Lescent asked doubtfully, and the palace elixirs beside him all pricked up their ears. "Your Majesty, the disease that His Highness the Grand Prince is suffering from should be a death curse." Death curse? Leesent was confused in his heart. As the king of a country, he had never heard of this disease, but what surprised Leesent was that after hearing the death curse mentioned by Jason, the elixir masters in the kingdom also had doubts on their faces, and it was obvious that they were not clear about it. Jason obviously didn't want to say more. The reason why he knew about this death curse was because he accidentally saw it when he was looking through an ancient book in his previous life, because this curse was related to dark spiritual power. In Stern Continent, spiritual power is divided into various attributes, including basic attributes such as earth, fire, metal, water, and wood, as well as special attributes such as wind, thunder, light, and darkness. This kind of death curse requires a lot of death breath. It is a very good nourishing skill for dark attribute spiritual masters, but for ordinary people, it is something that can cause death. After a while, the guard from before ran back again and said a few words in Leesent's ear. Leesent said with joy on his face, "Master Jason, the palace's elixir master's inventory has the materials you mentioned. If Master doesn't mind, you can go to the palace laboratory. The facilities there should be able to meet your needs." "Master, your request." "No, Your Majesty, I saw that there seems to be a laboratory in the eldest prince's side hall. If possible, you just need to have these materials sent here." This Lycenter hesitated for a moment and said, "Master Jason, there is a laboratory here, but it is just a temporary laboratory set up by the masters. Some of the equipment is not very complete. I'm afraid the laboratory here is indeed the two in the past few months, when the elixirs of the kingdom were treating the eldest prince, the elixirs who stayed here built one at will. Bisfam's sobering potion was prepared here. Because it was a temporary building, it was only satisfactory. There are some basic requirements, so the equipment inside is not very complete. It doesn't matter, Your Majesty, the equipment here is enough." Jason shook his head. As a technical streamer, his requirements for equipment are not as high as Rudolph and the others. As long as he has basic equipment, it will be fine. Seeing Jason say this, Nexent stopped insisting. This time everyone waited a little longer, and the materials Jason needed were delivered to the laboratory not far away one by one. Jason checked the materials one by one, and after finding that they were correct, he began to prepare the ingredients. And Rudolph and others all crowded into the small laboratory, curious to see what kind of elixir Jason prepared. Seeing so many people crowded near the door, Jason didn't say much. What to say, the whole person has been immersed in it. The death curse is a curse composed of the breath of death. It will swallow up people's vitality bit by bit, making people gradually lose vitality and then die. If you want to lift this curse, you must use the corresponding power to purify it. This kind of purification is not possible with a simple purification potion. Although the purification potion is a 6th-level middle-grade spiritual potion that can greatly improve a person's mental power and purify most of the negative effects, it has no effect on the death curse. It has no effect, because the breath of death is not a negative effect caused by ordinary spiritual attributes. The reason why the sobering potion prepared by Bisfam seems to have a suppressive effect on the eldest prince's condition is because the death curse can consume a person's mind and speed up the devouring of human life, and the sobering potion can improve a person's mental power. From another, the expansion of the death curse has been suppressed, but it only treats the symptoms and not the root cause. If you want to purify the death curse, you must take a sacred potion with the opposite attribute, a 5th-level high-grade spiritual potion with light attribute. Among the materials Jason mentioned, the sacred stone and the sun fruit both have extremely strong sacred purification effects. One kind has a very powerful sacred amplification effect for light attribute spiritual masters. The sacred potion prepared from these two materials can almost purify some negative effects of dark attributes. Materials such as Nishizawa grass are used to suppress the counterattack of the breath of death, and the perfect fusion of sacred stone and sun fruit is also used to enhance the body resistance of the user and protect the person taking the medicine from a strong reaction to the medicine. Causes additional damage. These materials complement each other, restrain each other, perform their own duties, are extremely subtle, and their reactions to each other are extremely complex. This is also the main reason why the sacred potion is rated as a 5th-level high-grade spiritual potion. It requires the spiritual knowledge of the spiritual medicine master. A slight difference in the dosage of herbal medicine added accidentally will lead to the failure of the preparation. Of course, for Jason, who is a pioneer in elixir medicine technology, this is not a big problem, because the preparation process of the entire sacred potion is quite simple, just some simple extraction and mixing, and even the auxiliary tools are very simple. Use less. Under the gaze of everyone, a preparation bottle suddenly appeared in Jason's left hand. Neither Rudolph nor the other elixir masters could see clearly how the preparation bottle got to Jason's left hand. The whole process seemed to be a magic trick. With a jump of his right hand, the fist-sized white sacred stone appeared in Jason's right hand. The spiritual power in his body instantly burst out from his right thumb and hit the sacred stone in his palm. The stone held by his right thumb, a thumb-sized pit, suddenly appeared on one side of the sacred stone, and a large amount of pure white stone powder fell like snowflakes into the preparation bottle below. Then Jason picked up the sun fruit on the side and gently kneaded it between his hands. Everyone's eyes were dazzled, and the skin of the whole sun fruit peeled off like a beautiful woman taking off her clothes. Throwing the malted sun fruit into another preparation bottle, Jason's right hand instantly turned into a black afterimage. Then there was a huge sonic boom in the air, and a red halo appeared on Jason's right hand. The palm of the hand is constantly jumping, like a flame elf. Before anyone could take a closer look, Jason's right hand had stopped, and inside the bottle containing the whole sun fruit, the original whole sun fruit had completely disappeared, leaving only a pool of pure fiery red liquid, and in the discarded dish on the experimental table, there is a pile of impurities, veins, and fine cores inside the sun fruit. With a slight shake of his right hand, a pool of red sun fruit liquid flew out of the preparation bottle, and happened to fall into the preparation bottle containing the sacred stone. The two materials immediately reacted violently. Afterwards, Jason added the processed nishiki grass and other remaining materials one by one, and the whole process was completed in one go, without any pause or unnaturalness. This everyone's eyes widened, their mouths opened wide, and their expressions were dull. Jason's operation process gave people of this era an extremely shocking feeling. Rudolph and others felt like children who didn't understand the preparation of magical potions at all. They were watching a master prepare the magical potions. The whole process was completely different. I didn't understand. How did he do it? Everyone couldn't help but have a doubt in their hearts. Putting aside the technical aspects, in the preparation of general elixirs, because the preparation of elixirs requires the addition of materials, there are strict requirements on the quantity. Normally, special instruments must be used to weigh the materials before adding them. Otherwise, any difference of 1 microgram or 1 microliter will lead to the failure of the entire preparation of the elixir. When peeling sun fruit, special peeling equipment is also required to carefully process it, and then remove impurities and veins in the fruit. As for Jason, when he was handling the sacred stone, he broke a piece at random, regardless of the amount. When he poured in the sun juice, he poured it out casually, without looking at how much he poured. And Caesar grass and other materials were also handled casually in this way. If Rudolph and the others had been asked to prepare it this way, the entire experiment would have failed hundreds of times. However, in Jason's hands, the experiment continued. It's simply extremely weird. And looking at Jason's preparation process, whether it is extraction, mixing, or the reaction between materials, everyone only saw the preparation bottles flying between Jason's hands, and they did not see anything that should appear in the preparation of the elixir. The spiritual consciousness control and Jason's preparation completely subverted the original preparation of spiritual potions in these people's minds. Among all the people present, Lecent, who did not understand the preparation of elixirs at all, Bispham and Saha, who had already seen Jason prepare it, had slightly better expressions. The other elixir masters, including Lou Daphne, all stood there as if they had seen a ghost, the corners of their mouths trembling, and their eyes dull. Call. When these people calmed down from their random thoughts and wanted to take a closer look at Jason's preparation, Jason, who was sweating profusely, had stopped. In front of Jason, a bottle of light-attributed spirit emitted rich, the elixir of power, was quietly placed there, with countless red light spots flickering in and out of the pure white elixir, full of magnificence. Your Majesty, this is the 5th-level high-grade spiritual elixir and sacred elixir that I have prepared. It can cure the death curse of His Royal Highness. Jason put the bottle of sacred elixir into Nexent's hand in the eyes of a group of people with dull eyes. Holy potion, what kind of spiritual potion is that? Is there such a kind among the 5th-level high-grade spiritual potions? How come I have never heard of it? A doubt appeared in the minds of everyone present. Only at this moment did they know why they couldn't tell what kind of magical potion Jason wanted to prepare when Jason reported so much information. That was because the sacred potion Jason wanted to prepare had not been prepared before. I have never heard of it, so how can I possibly identify it? What Rudolph and the others didn't know was that this sacred potion was a new type of elixir that would appear more than 1,000 years later. They couldn't even think of it now, even if they wanted to. After receiving the sacred potion handed to him by Jason, Nexent's expression looked extremely excited, as if he was holding the most noble treasure in the world, carefully. Your Majesty, you only need to give this sacred potion to the eldest prince, but remember, this bottle of sacred potion needs to be taken 3 times, once a day, 1/3 of the bottle each time. Jason reminded Lecent. It turns out that the death curse suffered by the eldest prince Dios is too heavy. If he takes it all at once, although the death curse will be completely purified, the body of the eldest prince that has been seriously corroded by the breath of death will also be under the powerful influence. He was seriously injured by the divine power, leading to irreversible consequences. Seeing Lecent eagerly running into Dios's dormitory with the sacred potion, Jason was recalling the previous preparation of the sacred potion in his mind. The previous preparation made him discover an extremely strange problem. In Jason's technical discipline of preparing spiritual potions, the preparation of spiritual potions has nothing to do with the strength of spiritual consciousness, but is inseparable from the physical strength and consciousness of the spiritual medicine master. In Jason's imagination, with the strength of his 6th-level low-level spiritual master, it would not be too difficult to prepare a 5th-level high-level sacred potion, but it is not that simple. This was obtained through countless experiments in his previous life. However, in the previous preparation process, Jason found that his entire preparation process seemed extremely easy and smooth, which made Jason's mind a little doubtful. Carefully recalling the previous preparation process, Jason discovered that as a spiritual master in this life, his spiritual consciousness was much stronger than in his previous life. Therefore, in the preparation of the spiritual potion, due to the addition of spiritual consciousness, he had greater control over the materials. It also seemed more relaxed. But more importantly, during the previous preparation, Jason vaguely felt that all the spiritual power in his body had gathered in his hands, and there was a feeling of being released. Even during the preparation process, there were many spiritual powers. The force seeped into the reaction of the materials, speeding up the preparation of the elixir. This made Jason wonder. In the system of spiritual masters, there are strict regulations for any level of spiritual master. The feeling of naturally releasing spiritual power is that one has to wait until he becomes a 3rd-level senior spiritual master and goes to the 4th-level spiritual master. A low-level heavenly spiritual master would only have the understanding when he breaks through, but now he is obviously a 2nd-level intermediate spiritual master. Could it be that the preparation of this spiritual potion will greatly improve his understanding as a spiritual master? Moreover, during Jason's previous preparation, he also felt that his spiritual consciousness had greatly increased during the preparation process. Especially when he was completely immersed in the preparation process, his spiritual consciousness increased faster than during normal practice. Between 10 and dozens of times, even the speed at which the body absorbs the free spiritual elements in the air has accelerated a lot. I didn't expect that the preparation of high-grade spiritual potions would have such a benefit. Jason couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. At this moment, everyone's exclamations suddenly came from the eldest prince's dormitory, awakening Jason from deep thought. "Thank you so much, Master Jason." In Leeson's study, Raiden Center held Jason's hand, his eyes filled with gratitude. After Leeson gave Dios 1/3 of the sacred potion, the eldest prince's originally withered face turned rosy in a moment, and his whole person seemed much more energetic, especially in Lester. Sent her Dios, who had been unable to eat anything for many days, saying that he was hungry and it was time to eat. Lucent was so excited that he almost shed tears. Rudolph and others, who were originally suspicious of Jason, couldn't help but sigh in their hearts after seeing the changes in the eldest prince. A feeling of loss, excitement, and happiness quickly spread in their hearts. Come. They were disappointed because they never expected that such a young boy would be so knowledgeable in magical potions. They gathered all the strength of the entire Orlando kingdom to study the eldest prince's disease that could not be solved for more than 2 months. Master Jason just glanced at it casually, and then prepared a bottle of elixir in 2 or 3 times to completely solve the problem. The strong contrast made them feel extremely disappointed. As for the excitement, they were excited that the kingdom could have such a profound elixir master, especially when they thought that Bispham and Saha were promoted under Jason's guidance in just half a year. When I reached the 4th level of Senior Elixir Master, I felt extremely excited when I thought that if I got the guidance of Master Jason, I might be able to reach a higher level in elixir science. He was even more happy because he saw that the eldest prince's condition was becoming more and more serious day by day, and that he and others could not be treated at all. Although His Majesty Leesant would not punish him very much, His Majesty must be full of grudges against people like him, and now that the Master has cured the eldest prince's illness, His Majesty is delighted. People like himself have worked hard no matter how hard they say they have no merit. Not only is there no punishment, but there should also be many rewards. After seeing Jason's strength, everyone's hearts were filled with excitement. Various feelings emerged one after another, but most of them were thinking about how to make friends with Master Jason in the future. Even the so-called number 1 in the kingdom, Master Rudolph, the elixir master, could not help himself. The eldest prince, Dios, fell asleep tiredly after eating some meals. After thanking all the elixirs present, Leesant asked everyone who had worked hard for more than 2 months to go back to have a good rest, and then left Jason alone. The person was led to his study room. Everyone who wanted to make friends with Jason suddenly lost their goals and turned to Bispham and Saha. The 9 people present were all the top elixir masters in the Kingdom of Orlando, and the lowest one was the senior elixir Tion. Master, Bispham and Saha, who had just been promoted to the 4th level senior spiritual master, originally had a low status among this group of people, but now it is completely different. The 3 low-level elixir masters in the kingdom include Rudolph. They all became affectionate with Bispham and Saha. After letting go of the burden that had been bothering them for 2 months, everyone felt light all over and walked out of the palace chatting and smiling. Haha, Your Majesty, this is just a small effort. In the study, Jason felt the gratitude of Nexant, but his expression was extremely dull. No, Master Jason, this is just a piece of cake for you, but for the Kingdom of Orlando, it saves the future of the kingdom. Leesant sighed with emotion, which has been weighing on his heart these days. The stone was finally put down, and a long-lost sincere smile appeared on Leesant's face, which had been suppressed for a long time. For Jason, Leesant's heart was filled with gratitude. From Jason's plain expression, Leesant also felt that Jason was not simple. Generally speaking, for such a young boy, no matter how capable he was, when seeing a king like himself, there would be a flattered expression on his face no matter what, but from Jason's face, Nexent saw plainness. Moreover, Lecent could also see that Jason's indifferent expression was not a pretended expression, but that he actually did not take this matter to heart. It seemed that he had only done an insignificant thing before. Generally, this makes Jason full of mystery in Nexent's heart. Nexent never believed in geniuses without reason. In his opinion, if Jason had such strength at such a young age, there must be an extremely powerful teacher guiding him. However, Jason himself was so powerful, so how awesome is that teacher? Lecent couldn't even imagine it, but he also understood in his heart that such a figure could not be left in his small kingdom. I am afraid that he is also a top figure among the powerful empires on the mainland. Master Jason, I won't say any more polite words. If you have any request, as long as I, Nexent, can help, I will try my best to fulfill it. It's not that Nexent doesn't want to reward Jason with anything, but he knew that a master of elixirs like Jason would never lack anything. He didn't know what good thing to reward Jason, so he could only give Jason the choice. Nexent never imagined that Jason was actually a complete pauper now. Haha, Your Majesty, you're welcome. Jason smiled slightly, with a sudden movement in his heart, and said, Your Majesty, I happen to need a 6th-level metallic spiritual core recently. I entrusted Oliver Auction House to purchase it. If Your Majesty has it, that would be perfect. The 6th-level metallic spiritual core center had a smile on his face and acted extremely generously. I will have someone check it out later. No matter whether there is one or not, I will find one as a gift. It's in your hands, Master, but I don't know where you live now, Master, so I can send someone there when the time comes. Nexent, who wanted to establish friendship with a master like Jason, found out Jason's current address through this method. Haha, Your Majesty, I am currently living in the residence of the Todd family in the kingdom. When the time comes, all Your Majesty will need to do is send someone to the Todd family. The Todd family? Lecent said with a hint of surprise on his face. Is Master Jason a member of the Todd family? Yes, Your Majesty, my uncle is Duke Renaud, the head of the kingdom's Todd family. Jason has nothing to hide about this. After all, his identity is nothing. The secret can be found out by anyone who is interested, let alone a leader of a country like Lecent. Okay, then I will send someone to the Todd family's mansion. Lecent laughed loudly, but he was quite confused in his heart. As one of the 3 major families in the kingdom, the Todd family knew it. It's very clear, but I've never heard of such a person. And according to what Bisfam and Saha said, Jason has always been in Talon City? How is this going? By the way, Master Jason, what exactly is this death curse, and why did Dios get it? Lecent asked, seemingly casually. Jason smiled slightly. It seemed that Lecent was indeed quite shrewd as the king of a country, so he briefly explained the cause and function of the death curse. According to the master, this death curse was cast on Dios. Lecent's expression looked extremely serious. Regarding Dios' condition, Lecent had always been quite suspicious. He was just the elixir of the kingdom. They couldn't even find the cause of the disease, so they had no way of asking. Your Majesty, this is generally the case, but if His Highness the Prince is exposed to the breath of death for a long time, he will naturally suffer from the death curse. Jason did not finish his words, but according to his guess, this Dios 90% of the death curse on his body was cast by someone else, but Jason didn't want to get caught up in such a palace battle. However, Nexent quickly changed the topic, and Jason naturally would not mention it. After chatting with Nexent for a while, Nexent strongly invited Jason to stay for the lunch. It was now afternoon. Jason couldn't put it off anymore, so he had lunch with Lecent, and then left the palace with Lecent personally seeing him off. After seeing Jason off, Lecent returned to the study and sat on his dragon chair, lost in thought. I didn't expect that Jason is actually a child of the Todd family. It seems that the kingdom's suppression of the Todd family can no longer continue. Not only can they not suppress it, but they must also try their best to win over them. The Todd family is really lucky that such a thing has appeared. He is a man of amazing talent, but the Todd family has not moved in these years under the pressure of the kingdom. It seems that he is indeed loyal to the kingdom. Because of the actions of the Daos family of the Cairo Empire 18 years ago, Lecent was very concerned about the Todd family, the #1 martial arts family that controls most of the kingdom's military power, suppressed them. However, the Todd family showed great cooperation. No matter how Nexent weakened the strength of the Todd family did not make the slightest move. Lecent also knew that the Todd family had no objections. Otherwise, if such a family that controlled most of the kingdom's military power wanted to resist, Lecent would not be able to do so due to pressure from all sides. However, no matter how loyal the Todd family is, Nexent cannot tolerate one family controlling such a huge power in the kingdom, and will continue to suppress it. But now that the Todd family has a figure like Jason, Nexent will take some measures. Another way. Lecent sat there quietly for a long time, then suddenly said, "Shadow." A strange black figure loomed in front of Lecent after Lecent spoke. This man was wrapped in black clothes, and even his face was wrapped in a layer of black gauze, which made him look extremely weird. "I want you to check who Dios had been in contact with before he fell ill 2 months ago, and where he went every day, and give me the results as soon as possible." Lecent's face was gloomy. The black figure did not answer. After Lecent finished speaking, the air around his body flickered strangely, and the whole person disappeared into the air the next moment, as if nothing had happened. After coming out of the palace, before Jason could go far, he saw a group of people walking out of a shop near the palace, led by Bisfam and Saha. "Master Jason, you can come out." Bisfam and Saha smiled. "Hey, you guys, haven't you already gone back?" Jason glanced at Bisfam, Saha and Rudolph and the others behind them, and couldn't help but wonder. "Haha, Master Jason, everyone admires you a lot, Master. We don't know where you live, so we can only wait here." Bisfam and Saha showed a wry smile on their faces. "Master Jason, I really admire your accomplishments in elixir science. Please don't take your initial recklessness to heart." Rudolph, the kingdom's #1 elixir master, stepped forward and spoke out first. Yes, Master Jason, the way you prepared that sacred potion just now is really a role model for us." Seeing Rudolph speak, one of the 3 5th-level low-level elixir masters in the Kingdom of Orlando named Inez the elixir master also spoke out. "We people have been studying the problem for 2 months without solving it. Master Jason solved it after just 2 glances. What a difference." Blue, another of the 3 low-level elixir masters, was also filled with emotion. Suddenly everyone started talking to each other, saying that Jason was omnipotent in the world. Even though Jason had been a man for 2 generations, he couldn't help but shout that it was too much. Seeing the noisy crowd, Bisfam said, "Master Jason, why don't we find a place to sit down?" Yes. The other elixir masters agreed one after another. Okay. Looking at the scorching eyes in front of him, Jason couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He knew that the reason why these elixir masters had been waiting for him here for so long was definitely not because he had cured Dios's disease and became a popular figure in front of Lecent, and wanted to please him like some ordinary people, but because he impressed them with his attainments in spiritual medicine. Just like those famous 8th-level elixir masters in the previous life in the mainland, they would rather be a small assistant by their side than serve as the dean of a powerful academy or the elixir master palace in the Lingdo Empire. Like the head of the palace, that's because they can learn knowledge they don't know by their side. Just like those spiritual masters who are constantly pursuing the limits of their power, elixir masters are also pursuing achievements in elixir science. For them, understanding a difficult problem in elixir science is far more important than holding an important position in the kingdom or gaining a lot of achievements. The wealth is more than worth it. This is the law of the elixir master world. Even if these elixir masters looked down on themselves at the beginning, after they showed their strong elixir knowledge before, these people all put down their arrogance and abandoned the age gap, just to be able to submit to them. Ask for advice and make progress. Okay, Master Jason, why don't we go to Bibo Pavilion now? I'll be the host today, Rudolph suggested. Baibokshuan is the most famous and luxurious hotel in the royal city of Orlando. It is located on a bustling street in Colton, the royal city. The food inside is extremely delicious, but the price is also quite expensive. It is the most popular among the nobles with status in the royal city. The place. Although Jason had just had lunch with Licent in the palace, he couldn't refuse, so he immediately followed everyone in the direction of Bibo-Xian. Normally, these people would all travel in luxurious carriages, but now with such a large group of people, they couldn't find so many carriages at the same time, so they walked away in a grand manner, walking and chatting all the way. Soon, everyone arrived in front of Bibo-Xian. The two guards at the entrance of Bibo-Xian saw such a large group of old men and a young man walking together, talking and laughing. Although they were curious, they were the best at observing words and expressions. It can be seen that although the behavior of these people in front of them is not very particular and they do not look like noble lords, their actions are extraordinary and they are obviously not ordinary people, so they behave extremely respectfully. Where did this group of old men come from? Such a large group came in and immediately attracted the attention of the guests on the first floor of Bibo-Xian. Those who can eat in Bibo-Xian are naturally rich or noble and have a wide range of knowledge. However, Rudolph and the others are the elixirs of the kingdom's palace. Most of them, like Bisvam and Saha, are the presidents of the Elixirs Union in the cities of the kingdom. They are not often in the royal city, and there are a few who are permanently stationed in the palace. He is also devoted to research and rarely comes out to attend banquets or show his face. The only people who really know Rudolph and the others are some real nobles in the royal city, such as the Minister of Military Affairs, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Agriculture and other figures. However, these people will naturally not eat on the first floor. At least they will eat in private rooms, so the first floor, although the guests were surprised, they quickly turned back to their own topics. However, Ode, as the general manager of the most luxurious Bibo Pavilion in the royal city, was not as blind as the guests on the first floor. Seeing such a large group of people, including someone vaguely familiar to him, his heart skipped a beat and he hurriedly threw it away. He finished his work and ran over respectfully. Guys, welcome to Bibo Pavilion. Do you need anything? Odd came to Rudolph and others with an extremely respectful expression. He had already seen it clearly when he ran over before. I misunderstood. One of these old men was indeed the one who sat next to Duke Gris when the Prime Minister of the kingdom held a banquet at Bibo-Xian. However, at that time, this man looked extremely arrogant. When he went out walking side by side with Prime Minister Gris talking and laughing, I heard that he was a palace elixir named Blue, but now, he was crowded in a group of people, looking extremely extraordinary. Hey, dear, who are these people? Odd couldn't help but murmur in his mind. What do you need? Haha, of course you need it when you come here. Find us the best place right away. Rudolph, the host, laughed without hesitation. Okay, please. Odd sang loudly and led everyone upstairs. Some of the guests who knew Odd on the first floor couldn't help but wonder, what are the origins of these old men, so that they could be received by the manager of Baibokshuan, Odd personally? Could it be the old nobles of the kingdom? These people suddenly began to speculate. Jason and the others, led by Odd, kept going up. Soon, they arrived at the innermost private room on the second floor, and everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. As expected, Baibokshuan is not a famous luxurious place in the royal city. The entire private room is not as narrow as an ordinary hotel. Instead, it is extremely wide, like a hall. The ground is paved with a special gray square tile. It is extremely comfortable to walk up. Around the dining table, some immortal bamboos and various rare flowers are planted. There is a faint fragrance in the air. The structure is extremely clever, and the tables and chairs are all made of sandalwood. High-grade materials such as wood are extremely luxurious. Guys, this is the best room number 1 on the second floor of our Bibokshuan. Are you satisfied? Not bad, not bad. Rudolph looked around, nodded with a smile, and then took the order in order. Take your seat. A scene that surprised Odd appeared. Generally speaking, the seats of nobles are very particular. But after a group of people here, after a while of shirk, the person sitting in the most distinguished position was actually the old man among this group of people. The only boy. The old man who spoke sat closely behind the young man, followed by the other 2 old men. As for the old man named Blue who sat with Duke Gree, the Prime Minister of the kingdom, at this moment. He was sitting in the 3rd position below the young man. He looked like he was only 5th or 6th among the group of people. Hey, who is this young man? Guys, what would you like to order? Odd said with a smile on his face after seeing everyone sit down. Everyone turned their attention to Jason, who smiled slightly and said, just order what you want to eat. You haven't had lunch yet. I already had it at His Majesty's place. Your Majesty? His expression remained unchanged, but his heart beat violently. Hearing what Jason said, everyone couldn't help but be moved, knowing that the reason why Jason was willing to come here was entirely to take care of people like himself. Moved, Rudolph nodded and told Oded, if you have any delicious food here, just bring it. Remember, you must bring the best food. Okay, you can go out, it has nothing to do with you here. After Odd went out, everyone immediately started chatting enthusiastically. Soon, several beautiful maids brought up a large number of delicious food, as well as Bibokshuan's famous kingdom specialty wine, Monroe wine. When they first met, Rudolph and others wanted to suppress their many questions about elixirs, but after casually exchanging their views on elixirs with Jason, they got out of hand. Jason didn't hide much about his technical spiritual medicine. In his previous life, Jason even allowed the technical spiritual medicine to spread widely on the mainland, forming a world-divided world with traditional spiritual medicine, because Jason knew that, if you want a discipline to develop healthily, brainstorming is the most important. Progress can never be achieved by working behind closed doors. Moreover, what Jason said were all theories and ideas about technical elixir medicine. Without Jason's step-by-step instruction like Bisfam and Saha, even a high-level elixir master like Rudolph wanted to, it is also impossible to simply learn and understand. On the contrary, the knowledge mentioned by Rudolph and others allowed Jason, a later generation, to look at the past knowledge of elixirs from a perspective that was 3,000 years ahead of the present, and it actually gave Jason some new insights. As the discussion deepened, Rudolph and others became more and more excited, which aroused Jason's interest. They also drank a lot of Monroe wine. It must be said that as the most famous hotel in the royal city, Bibokshuan, it has its own unique characteristics. The taste of this Monroe wine alone can make most people linger. In the middle of drinking, Jason got up and went out to relieve himself. When Jason came back from urinating, his attention was attracted by a loud shout from downstairs. It has to be said that the structure of Bibokshuan is extremely exquisite. The second floor and the first floor are separated by a layer of quartz yarn. The material of this quartz yarn is very special. Looking from the second floor, the situation on the first floor can be clearly seen. Eyesight, but looking up from the first floor, nothing can be seen. And now what appeared in front of Jason was a rather slovenly-looking middle-aged man wearing a spiritual master's robe, sitting at a table near the door on the first floor, shouting, "Boss, where is the boss? What's going on? Why haven't the drinks I asked for come yet? Is this how you treat a noble imperial spiritual master? Emperor spiritual master?" Jason was stunned. He had not thought that such a person in the kingdom of Orlando would. There will also be emperor spiritual masters appearing in the kingdom. You know, in Jason's memory, whether in the past life or this life, the 9th level Holy Spirit Master has always been the top combat power on the continent. The 10th level spiritual master only exists in legends, like the 8th level imperial spirit master. Even in those powerful empires, they are absolute top figures, at least generals, who hold important positions in the empire. Although a kingdom like Orlando is considered powerful in the kingdom, it stands to reason that still can't attract an emperor spiritual master. Hearing what this middle-aged man said, a waiter in Bibo Xuanzhong couldn't help laughing. He pointed at the sloppy middle-aged man and said, "What a joke. If you are an emperor spirit master, then I am a holy spirit master. Just wear a fake suit. The spirit master's clothes are the emperor spirit master's? Damn it, if that's the case, I'll spend a few spirit coins to customize a piece of holy spirit master's clothes some other day. It belongs to his grandma. You kid, get out of here as soon as possible. If you don't leave, I'm going to drive them away." After saying that, the waiter went to pull the middle-aged man's clothes. "Humph, don't let me go. How can a boy like you pull the clothes of my majestic imperial spiritual master?" The middle-aged man resisted with all his strength while yelling, causing the guests below to burst into laughter. Laughing, sharp-eyed Jason saw the badge on the middle-aged spiritual master's robe at a glance. It was indeed the symbol of the imperial spiritual master. Jason was puzzled. With his eyesight, he could tell at a glance that the spiritual master robe worn by the middle-aged man was definitely the spiritual master robe issued by the Zhenzong Spiritual Masters Union, and not some fake or shoddy product. However, from the behavior of this middle-aged man, it is impossible to tell that he is a spiritual master. Jason was curious, so he immediately came to the stairs and walked down. The middle-aged man and the waiter were entangled with each other. One wanted to drag the person out, and the other was trying to go in. No one could do anything. In the end, the middle-aged man was stronger and pushed the waiter away. "Come on. Hey, you guys still dare to resist? You have been eating and drinking for free for the past 2 days. Haven't you been beaten enough? Guards, where are the guards? Throw this kid out, Grandma, bad luck." The 2 guards at the door immediately rushed. He walked in and grabbed the slovenly middle-aged man. Immediately, 2 second-level spiritual masters carried the so-called 8th-level imperial spiritual master and walked out like a chicken. The middle-aged man resisted with all his strength while cursing, "You blind people, how dare you treat me, the Emperor Spirit Master, like this? You will be punished." But under the restraint of the 2 guards, the middle-aged man could not break free no matter how much he resisted. At this moment, a group of people suddenly walked in from outside Bibo Xin. The middle-aged man kicked his hands and feet in the resistance, and suddenly kicked the person in the lead, leaving traces on the gorgeous clothes of the leader. A gray footprint was left. "What the hell is going on? You don't have eyes, don't you? Where are the guards? Why don't you come over quickly?" The leader was a young man. He was stunned for a moment, and then started to curse. As he cursed, several figures quickly rushed in from behind. Before the 2 Baiboxuan guards could react, the slovenly middle-aged man who was originally carrying them had been snatched away by those figures. He passed by, and immediately there was a burst of violent punches and kicks. "Oh, who are you? You dare to hit me, a noble Emperor Spiritual Master, you oh my god, don't you want to live?" Amidst the sound of punches and kicks, there was a voice. Here comes the middle-aged man shouting. "That's enough, throw this guy out, it's an eyesore here." The young man frowned, and the black figures stopped quickly. Then he heard an ouch, and the middle-aged man was already far away. "Throw it far into the street." "Your Highness, 4th Prince, I'm really sorry. My poor management has shocked you." A young man rushed up from behind the crowd and said politely in front of the young man. After that, the young man came to the previous waiter and slapped the waiter on the face. The waiter's mouth immediately swelled. "Bitch, what did you do? Can such a person be allowed to enter Bibo Pavilion? Which of you can afford to disturb His Highness, the 4th Prince?" The young man cursed fiercely. Master, the waiter, who was very ruthless, before now lowered his head and did not dare to say a word. Who would have thought that the young man in front of him was the son of the boss of Baibakshuan, his own young master Gareth? Okay. The fourth prince waved his hand and walked towards the stairs on the second floor. A group of men and women appeared behind the fourth prince. The leader was a young man in his 20s, with the left side of his face there is also a faint red palm mark. Seeing that man, Jason couldn't help but be startled. They were really enemies on a narrow road. The person following the fourth prince was none other than Roos, the son of the kingdom's finance minister, who had been slapped by Saha when he stopped him in the morning. At the same time that Jason saw Roos also saw Jason standing at the top of the stairs. He was stunned for a moment, and then he suddenly became happy, with an extremely sinister look on his face. When it comes to Roos' hatred for Jason, it's hard to describe. He met Jason twice and was severely punished by Jason both times. Especially this morning, he even offended the kingdom. Master Rudolph. In the morning, Roos came home with blood at the corner of his mouth and red and swollen left side of his face. When his father Byram found out the reason, he also gave Roos a severe beating. Byram was so angry that he almost didn't give Roos to him. It's done with my own hands. Even His Majesty Leasant doesn't have the guts to scold Master Rudolph. You're a good boy. You just point at someone's nose and start scolding him. You're really promising. An extremely angry Byram immediately put Roos in solitary confinement. If the fourth prince hadn't come to him in the afternoon, Byram would have had to release Roos. I'm afraid Roos would still be in solitary confinement. When he thought of this, Roy's teeth itched with hatred. If Jason knew Master Rudolph in the kingdom, Roy's would never believe it. He could only say that he was really unlucky in the morning. Master Rudolph might not he just came over to dissuade him, but he started scolding him directly. It was all Jason's fault. Roos put all the faults on Jason in his heart. But now, after suffering 2 losses, Roos has become much more well-behaved. This Jason is with Grayson again, and they are eating at Baibakshuan again. Maybe he still has some background. When he knows the identity of the other party, it was completely verified that as long as he was still in the royal city, I would have a way to deal with him severely. Thinking of this, Roos showed a stern smile to Jason and followed His Royal Highness, the fourth prince, forward. Hurry up and clean up Tianzi No. 1 on the second floor. His Royal Highness, the fourth prince, wants to use it. Gareth, the young master of Baibakshuan, directly ordered the waiter on the side. Young master, someone has taken the private room on Tianzi No. 1 upstairs. Has someone taken it? What do you do for food? Who asked you to use it? Get the person out quickly. I didn't see it. Your Highness, the fourth prince, is waiting to eat. What a waste. Gareth wanted to slap the waiter hard again. Who is this person? He is so ignorant. But young master, this person was personally arranged by Director Aud. The waiter was so depressed that he almost cried. Damn, I'm just a waiter. Why are they looking for me? What's going on? After hearing the conversation here, the fourth prince stopped and asked with a frown. It's okay, Your Highness the fourth prince, it's okay. There is someone in private room No. 1. I'll leave immediately. You can rest for a while. You'll be fine soon. Gareth said with a smile, and then faced him with a gloomy look. The waiter said, Is it arranged by Director Aud? Even the arrangement by the King of Heaven will not work. Hurry, go quickly, the waiter said with a bitter smile. It's not that he doesn't want to drive people away. If he wants to say that his young master gave the order, he will do it himself. It should have been carried out immediately, but Director Aud told him very sternly when he left that there was a distinguished guest at Tianzi No. 1 upstairs. Now he went to find the boss and asked him to take good care of him. He would meet all their requirements. Why are you still standing there? Go quickly. Seeing that the waiter still didn't move, Gareth stared. Just when the waiters caught in the middle didn't know what to do, they suddenly saw Jason at the top of the stairs. His eyes lit up and he immediately said to Gareth, "Master, he is the one being served by Tianzi number 1 now." "Yes, let them negotiate. Although it will offend people, it is a last resort." "Oh, is it him?" Gareth glared at the waiter fiercely, came to Jason, and looked at Jason carefully. "Brother, you also saw that His Highness the 4th Prince wanted to use food. Your people should leave as soon as possible." Gareth did not dare to be too arrogant about the VIPs who could eat at Tianzi number 1. Jason glanced at Gareth, turned around and went upstairs. "It's done." Gareth walked up to the 4th Prince with a smile on his face. Look, he was so proud, and the matter was resolved all at once. Before he could take credit, he heard Jason's faint voice from upstairs, "Want to have a meal?" "Okay, wait until we're done." Pfft. Gareth's face suddenly turned green. "What on earth are you, kid?" Gareth, full of anger, ran up. The 4th Prince Nanette on the side also frowned slightly after hearing Jason's words and whispered, "What is this kid's background?" When Roos heard this, he felt happy and leaned into Nanette's ear. He whispered softly, "Your Highness the 4th Prince, I know this Jason. He is extremely arrogant. He has a good relationship with Grayson. He seems to be from the Todd family." Roos, who was happy in his heart, secretly said, Jason, even Jason, you dare to offend the 4th Prince. You are too arrogant. I didn't want to deal with you today. It seems that even God is helping me." Nate, the boy from Grayson, showed a trace of displeasure on his face. Although the Todd family is one of the 3 major families in the kingdom, it is different from the past. The Todd family can't even protect itself, and the disciples dare to do this. Arrogant, really looking for death. That's it. Roos flattered him. When Nanette and Roos were unhappy with Jason, Jason had already opened the door of the private room and walked in. "Master Jason, why have you been out for so long? We are waiting for you to answer the question you just asked." As soon as they saw Jason coming in, Rudolph and others immediately shouted. "Haha, I just went out to watch a show." Jason smiled. Watching a show? Everyone couldn't help but have a trace of doubt in their hearts. At this moment, the door of the private room was kicked open with a loud bang. Gareth was seen standing outside the door with an angry face, and there was still someone standing behind him. 2 guards of Baibokshuan. After seeing this situation in the private room, Gareth couldn't help but be startled. Originally, in Gareth's imagination, many teenagers like Jason should be gathering here in this private room, but in fact, Gareth appeared and in front of them were a group of old men with grey beards. Such a large group of old men eating here? What's going on here? When did Baibokshuan become a senior citizens club? Gareth was puzzled. What's going on? Who are you? Rudolph and others couldn't help but be stunned, and then a trace of anger appeared on their faces. You don't need to know who I am. I'm just telling you that someone wants to use this private room number 1. You should leave immediately. Gareth said coldly after scanning the faces of Rudolph and others one by one. Obviously, our lovely Master Gareth does not know Rudolph and these famous elixir masters in the kingdom. Although the large group of old men in the private room was beyond Gareth's expectation, Gareth felt relieved after seeing that Jason was sitting in the first place. The status among the nobles was extremely important. A group of old men were eating. The person sitting in the first place is actually a young man, which shows that these old men are very ordinary. They are probably a group of declining nobles of the kingdom. Gareth couldn't help but think to himself. What's going on? Where is the boss of Baibokshuan? Is this how Baibokshuan treats its guests? Rudolph, the host, stood up with an angry face. He really didn't expect that he would invite Jia as a host at Baibokshuan. Master Sen, such a thing would actually happen, which made Rudolph, the number 1 elixir master in the kingdom, feel very humiliated, while the other elixir masters on the side also looked shocked. Boss of Baibokshuan, I am the boss of Baibokshuan. You can leave. Regarding Jason's previous answer, Gareth was filled with anger and his tone became rude. Master Jason, please wait a moment, I will take care of this matter. Rudolph lowered his head and whispered a few words to Jason, then raised his head, looked at Gareth at the door with a gloomy face and said, "You know who is it?" At this moment, Rudolph was really angry. Faced with Roos' insult this morning, although Rudolph was angry, he was not too angry. After all, Roos was just an ignorant boy, but now, something like this actually happened during the banquet for Master Jason, and the people from Bibokshuan did not come out to explain it, but it made Rudolph extremely angry. Who are you? Haha. Seeing that Rudolph quietly asked Jason for permission before speaking, Gareth despised Rudolph even more. He originally thought that the person eating at Tianzi number 1 was some big shot, and he was going to he who liked to talk things over, now sneered, "I don't care who you are, since you won't leave, it seems that I want my people to invite you, guards, why don't I drive them out?" How dare you? Seeing the two guards behind Gareth rushing in like wolves and tigers, Rudolph was completely angry. He roared in his mouth and punched out with both fists. The two menacing guards had not even stopped yet. When he realized what had happened, his whole body had already flown out like a cannonball. Seeing the two guards vomiting blood and rolling on the ground, Gareth pointed at Rudolph and said angrily, "Old man, you actually dare to attack my Bibo pavilion. You are really rebelling and openly committing murder in the royal city. You know, who are we inviting? Gareth, what's going on?" At this time, the fourth Prince Nanette came over slowly with Roos and others. He didn't see anyone in the private room. Already asked loudly. "Your Highness, the fourth prince." When he saw Nanette, Gareth immediately shouted, "I just tried to persuade that young man to leave, but these guys not only refused to leave, but openly committed crimes and injured my Bibokshuan guards. It's simply lawless." Gareth, a playboy, doesn't know how to do other things, but he is very good at confusing right and wrong. "Humph, don't worry Gareth, I want to see who dares to cause trouble in my royal city of the Kingdom of Orlando," Nanette said sternly, while speaking proudly walked into Tianzi number 1 private room. As soon as Nanette walked in, she saw an old man looking at her with a livid face and burning anger in his eyes. Nanette, who was originally extremely handsome and proud, was stunned when she saw this man. "Humph, this is His Royal Highness, the fourth prince of the kingdom. Have you old guys seen it? His Royal Highness, the fourth prince, wants this private room number 1 in Tianzi. You old guys, please get out of here right away," Gareth said proudly. He said proudly, being extremely arrogant and completely unaware of the frightened and pale face of His Highness, the fourth prince he was talking about. "Master Rudolph," Nanette said with a trembling salute to Rudolph. "Master Inez, Master Blue, Master Casper." Immediately afterwards, Nanette saw the palace elixirs sitting next to the banquet behind Master Rudolph, and saluted one by one with a grimace. Now he is almost ready to kill Roos and Gareth. Doesn't it mean that this boy has no other relationship besides having a good relationship with Grayson? Why are all the elixir masters in the kingdom sitting together to eat with the young man? Except for his father, he would never be able to handle such a big battle, even as the eldest brother as the crown prince of the kingdom. Oh, it turns out that His Royal Highness the fourth prince wants to have a meal, but there has to be a first come, first served basis, right? Rudolph narrowed his eyes and said calmly. "Master Rudolph, this I was just passing by." "Yes, just passing by." Nanette was too nervous to speak. Nanette knew very well that although she was a prince, what she was facing now was the most powerful group of elixir masters in the entire kingdom. Now that her eldest brother was lying on the bed sick, he might end up burping at some point, and he wanted to get the throne. In addition to getting the appreciation of his father, the most important thing is to get the support of this group of elixirs headed by Master Rudolph, but now, he has actually offended this group of people. It's you again? Are we really destined? Rudolph glanced at Roos, who was hiding behind Nanette, and a smile appeared on his face. The 2 times he was pointed at and scolded today had something to do with this guy. What a coincidence, oh, what a coincidence. Normally, Master Rudolph would have smiled at him, and he would have been extremely excited, but at this time, Roos felt a cold air rising directly from the soles of his feet, making him unable to help but tremble. Master Rudolph, please continue. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Nanette really didn't know what to say at this time, so she hurriedly said something, turned around and left. Well, Your Highness the Fourth Prince, didn't you mean, oops, Gareth couldn't help but wonder as he didn't understand the situation for a moment. Before he could finish his words, he was kicked by Nanette. I got on the bed and fell to pieces. Gareth suddenly didn't dare to speak. The depressed Nanette walked down the stairs and walked directly outside Bibo Pavilion. Your Highness, Fourth Prince, are you not going to eat? Gareth said as he hurriedly followed Nanette. Eat? Eat, you big-headed devil. Nanette snorted coldly, ignored Roos and the others, and went back to the palace with the guards. Master Roos, Gareth was also extremely depressed. It was rare for him to flatter the Fourth Prince, but he did not expect such an ending. Then he turned to Roos, the son of the kingdom's finance minister, is also the of Wanqing. Roos, who knew that he had completely offended Master Rudolph, also snorted coldly, glared at Gareth fiercely, and walked out of Bibo Pavilion. If Gareth hadn't invited His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince to come to Bibo Pavilion with him, how could I have offended Master Rudolph again? I am afraid that even His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince is resentful of me now. Alas, after the Fourth Prince left, the original group of people dispersed instantly, leaving only Gareth alone and confused. Standing at the door of Bibo Xian. Haha, Master Jason, let's continue. Rudolph returned to his position, his expression changed to a full smile. I think the sky is almost dark. Let's stop here today. Jason came out in the morning, went to the palace to treat the eldest prince, and then drank here. The sky was getting dark. He didn't go back for a day for fear of his own death. The father was worried, so he spoke up. Then okay. Rudolph thought that Jason wanted to leave because Roos and the others lost interest, and he hated Roos and the others in his heart. After a glass of wine, a group of people got up and walked out together, saying goodbye at the door by Bakshuan. Although Rudolph, Saha and others tried their best to see Jason off, they were pushed away by Jason. Looking at Jason's retreating back, Rudolph and others standing at the door by Bakshuan couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Oh, Master Jason's attainments in elixir science are indeed profound. It's a pity, I don't understand a few questions. If it weren't for those little brats in Naluos who disrupted the situation, maybe I could have asked for more advice. It's a pity, it's a pity. Masters, walk slowly right there. At this time, Steward Odd quickly walked over with a fat middle-aged man with a big belly. This fat man was Viscount Salis, the boss of Bakshuan. It turned out that after receiving Rudolph and others, Odd knew that Rudolph and others had a noble status, so after instructing his men to entertain him well, he immediately brought his boss, Viscount Salis, over. In their line of business, interpersonal relationships are extremely high. It's important, but it's just that senior leaders of the kingdom like Blue, Salis, and the others can't get on the line at all. It's rare that Blue and the others come over for dinner and just get to know each other, but they didn't expect that when Oded brought his boss, Viscount Salis, over, these people everyone has finished their meal and left Bibo Xian. Ah, it turns out it's Master Rudolph, Master Blue, dear guests, distinguished guests, I wonder how these masters enjoyed their meal in the shop today? Salis, as the boss, is also a viscount of the kingdom, and he also has some experience in the royal city. With connections, the higher-ups in the kingdom can at least recognize people. My dear, these are all masters of the kingdom. What kind of wind brought them here? After seeing Rudolph and the others, Salis was so shocked that his whole body couldn't help but tremble. The whole big face was squeezed into a ball with a smile, and the tone was extremely respectful. Rudolph and others looked at Salis and Oded coldly, snorted coldly, ignored them, and walked away, leaving only Viscount Salis with a confused look on his face. What's going on? Odd, have you not entertained several masters? Salas was confused. No, I made good arrangements. It's in room number 1, Tianzi, and I asked someone to treat him well before leaving. Oded also frowned, not knowing why. Depressed Salas and Ode walked into Bibo Xian, but they heard some guests on the first floor talking about how the young master of Bibo Xian personally went to Tianzi number 1 to evict people, but failed to do so and was severely beaten. After repairing something, after seeing Salas coming in, all the guests who knew Salas stopped talking, but some guests who didn't know that Salas was the boss of Baibakshuan continued to talk about it. What an interesting thing this is for these little nobles in the royal city. Gareth. Come here. Salas, who had heard some of the ins and outs, roared like a lion, his eyes burst with sparks of incomparable anger, and he said angrily in his heart, "What do you think, Rudolph, these spirits? Even if Master Yao looks down on me, Salas, he will never look down upon me. Who am I? I am nothing in front of Master Rudolph and the others. I didn't expect that there is such a thing here." Gareth, who was depressed in the Bibo pavilion, was startled when he heard his father's roar. He trotted into his father's office, and the waiter who had been specially entrusted by Oded was also called at the same time. Past. Pa. After hearing the whole story, an angry Salas slapped Gareth hard on the face, and then kicked him hard without feeling relieved. "You are such an ineffective guy. You are more likely to fail than succeed. It just makes me so angry. Father, didn't you tell me to curry favor with the princes of the royal city?" Gareth held his hands aggrievedly. His face was filled with tears. "As soon as I saw that young man was so disrespectful to me, I became so angry. I didn't expect those old men to be the elixir masters of the kingdom. I didn't expect. Salas stomped his foot fiercely and stretched out his hand to hit Gareth. Seeing the aggrieved look on Gareth's side, Salas finally refused to hit him and just let out a long sigh. While Salas was teaching Gareth a lesson, Jason was walking slowly on the way back, thinking about everything that happened today. With Leeson's promise, the 6th-level metallic spiritual core, it seems that there is no problem. As long as Oliver Auction House acquires all the materials he needs, he will be fully confident that his father can regain his strength. At the beginning, Jason was worried that he only had a 6th-level physique and could barely prepare a 6th-level spiritual potion. After easily preparing the sacred potion today, Jason was already full of confidence in himself. "Hey, isn't that the Emperor Spiritual Master in front of me?" Just as Jason was walking and thinking, he suddenly saw a lonely middle-aged man sitting under the bridge pier in front of him. It was the man who shouted for himself in Bibo Xian. It was the middle-aged man who was the Imperial Spiritual Master. Thinking of the way the middle-aged man shouted that he was an Emperor Spiritual Master and was immediately carried out by 2 Spiritual Master-level guards, Jason couldn't help but feel funny in his heart. He shook his head slightly. Jason looked at the middle-aged man. With one glance, he walked past the middle-aged man. Just when Jason had just passed the middle-aged man, he couldn't help but was stunned. Previously, Jason saw with his own eyes a group of guards of the 4th Prince Nanette violently punched and kicked the middle-aged man, and then threw him heavily. Baibakshuan, with Jason's strength, could naturally tell that the guards behind them were extraordinary, at least masters of the 4th Order Heavenly Spirit Master level. After all, Nanette, as the Prince of the Kingdom of Orlando, had absolutely enough guards around him. And Jason also saw that Nanette's guards were definitely not pretending when they took action. Every blow they hit on the middle-aged man was real. But what makes Jason strange is that now this middle-aged man, there were no wounds on his body. What's going on? Is this middle-aged man really some kind of Emperor Spiritual Master? It doesn't look like it. Jason couldn't help but frowned, feeling a little unbelievable. Intuitively, he felt that this middle-aged man was not a simple man. Thinking of this, Jason couldn't help but turned around and pulled up the middle-aged man's clothes and said, "Dear Mr. Emperor Spirit Master, what a coincidence, we meet again." He felt someone pulling on his clothes and heard that for a long time. There was no praise from anyone. The middle-aged man couldn't help but look up with a happy face to see who was so wise and visionary, but found that the person standing in front of him was just a not-so-old boy. "Who are you? When did we meet?" the middle-aged man said with some confusion and disappointment. "Haha, just now, in Bibo Schwanli," Jason said. "Oh, no wonder, I just felt someone looking at me on the second floor in Bibo Pavilion." "It must be you," the middle-aged man said calmly. "What do you want from me?" "How did you know that I was on the second floor?" Lou was looking at you. Now it was Jason's turn to be surprised. "Humph, as a dignified emperor, spiritual master, if you can't even feel this, it would be a failure," the middle-aged man said dismissively. Are you really an emperor spiritual master?" Jason asked curiously. "That's natural. You actually dare to doubt my strength." It turns out that you are just like them, a group of really blind guys," the middle-aged man roared with great anger. "Then how come you were carried away by two spiritual warriors? And you were beaten by a group of guards until you were unable to resist?" Jason curled his lips. The middle-aged man's face suddenly turned red. "I just don't want to be acquainted with them. In the past, no matter how many guys like this came, I wouldn't be able to hit him with one blow." "Before?" Jason asked very much. I caught the two words sensitively. "Humph, kid, what do you know? I was once an imperial spiritual master and a well-known figure in the Cairo Empire. If you go to the Cairo Empire and mention my name Wayne, my legendary history is guaranteed to make you incomparable. Worship, I tell you, I don't know how many girls had a crush on me back then." "Stop," Jason interrupted the middle-aged man named Wayne in time. "Then how come you are in such a state of desolation now? Do you really believe that I am an emperor spiritual master?" Wayne instead looked at Jason curiously. "Believe it?" Jason nodded. "Hey, how did you know that I am a great imperial spiritual master? Unless the fists that the heavenly spirit master level guards hit you with were all fake, you will definitely only have half a life left lying here, and you will not be as alive as you are now." Jason held back the punch. Human impulse said, no matter whether this Wayne was once an imperial spiritualist or not, at least his thick skin was definitely at the level of an imperial spiritualist. Alas, Wayne was startled, and suddenly let out a long sigh. "In the past, I was indeed an emperor spiritual master, and I was also a famous figure in the Cairo Empire. It was a pity that I had an affair with a man 10 years ago. In the battle with the Dark Attribute Senior Imperial Spiritual Master, although I successfully killed him, I was unable to dodge the dark curse released by his temporary death. Since then, my spiritual consciousness has been sealed, and naturally I cannot mobilize it. The spiritual power in my body has become a waste that cannot use spiritual power, but my body has not been damaged, and naturally I will not be injured by those guys' fists." At this point, Wayne's face was filled with emotion, a kind of incomparable loneliness. He used to be so majestic. In this world where strength is respected, without the power of the Emperor Spirit Master, he seemed to have fallen from heaven to hell. Over the years, he has no shame to treat him anymore. In the Cairo Empire, he kept traveling on the mainland, but was bullied all the time. If it weren't for his Emperor Spirit Master level body, his body might have been floating in the gutter long ago. "If you don't mind, can you let me feel it?" Jason said. Without waiting for Wayne's consent, he directly put his right hand on Wayne's forehead, and a spiritual consciousness had entered Wayne's forehead. And's mind. As Jason's spiritual consciousness deepened, Jason finally found what he was looking for. In the spiritual sea deep in Wayne's mind, a black gas enveloped Wayne's entire spiritual sea. Above the spiritual sea, a large round black mist enveloped a colorful drop-shaped liquid. Seeing the drop-shaped liquid, Jason couldn't help but nodded, and his mental power liquefied. This Wayne was indeed a genuine imperial spiritualist, and the viscosity of this liquid was very high. Even among imperial spiritualists, this Wayne's mental strength is definitely top-notch. Withdrawing the spiritual consciousness from Wayne's mind, Jason looked at Wayne and couldn't help but think about it. Being able to seal the liquid spirit. The energy of this dark curse is absolutely terrifying, but how can it be done? How to eliminate the energy of this dark curse? What were you doing just now? Wayne said, rubbing his uncomfortable brow. Nothing, just to see if what you said is true. By the way, let's think about it. Is there any simple way to restore your strength? Restore my strength, haha, are you kidding me? Wayne couldn't help laughing. Don't tell me that you are actually a 9th level light system, Holy Spirit Master. In that case, there might be some hope. Are you kidding? No, I never joke. Jason shook his head seriously. Shaking his head, what you have been hit by is not an ordinary dark curse. Ordinary 9th level light system, Holy Spirit Masters, may not be able to eliminate it. This is a curse of hatred released by a high-level Emperor Spiritual Master when he died. It concentrated on a high-level Emperor Spiritual Master before he died. All the resentment at that time, and it has lasted for 10 years. It is very difficult to eliminate. How do you know that the name of this curse is a curse of hatred? I don't think I said it, right? Wayne said with a look on his face shocked. He immediately grabbed Jason's arm. Can you really restore my strength? It's difficult to know the name of the curse, and I have at least several ways to eliminate your curse of hatred, but with my current strength, I still need to do more research and come up with a perfect solution. Jason said thoughtfully. Don't lie to me. Wayne showed an extremely excited look on his face. As long as you can remove the curse from my body, I can do anything you want. No one wants to regain his strength more than Wayne, the former Imperial Spirit Master. The difficult experiences he has experienced over the years have made him unable to look back. Therefore, after hearing that Jason said it was possible for him to regain his strength, Wayne seemed extremely excited. Although Jason is just a young boy, now Wayne has no choice but to become a doctor. I never lie to people. If you are free next time, come to see me at the Todd family mansion in the kingdom. By the way, my name is Jason, don't forget. After saying that, Jason stood up and asked the family as he walked towards the mansion. He saw Wayne rushing up and following behind him. Jason couldn't help but said, "Why are you following me? It's so late today. I'm going back. You can come back to me when you are free next time." Me. Haha, since Master Jason you are from the Todd family, such a big family shouldn't care about the addition of me. From now on, I will follow you, Master. Wayne, the extremely bachelor, said that he had also heard about the Todd family, one of the 3 major families in the Kingdom of Orlando, so naturally he didn't have to worry about Jason lying to him. Don't you need to go home? Go home? No, Wayne waved his hands repeatedly. Master Jason, I don't have a home. That was my home before. After that, Wayne, he pointed to a bridge hole near the bridge pier where he was sitting before. Jason looked around and saw a pile of simple beds made of hay in the bridge hole. This Wayne is too good. Jason said speechlessly, I'm a bit doubtful whether you were once an Imperial Spiritual Master. Otherwise, with your knowledge and understanding of spiritual power, even if you are no longer an Imperial Spiritual Master, you won't be in this state, right? No. Master Jason, you don't understand, even if I lose my strength, how can I do those menial jobs? I am a noble Imperial Spirit Master, and I should be admired by thousands of people. Wayne said proudly. Jason was completely speechless. After returning to the family, Jason directly asked Wayne to find a house to live in his small yard, and then ignored this noble Imperial Spiritual Master. Father? Jason searched around the yard and found no sign of Reno, so he walked towards Leo's yard, thinking that his father should be there now. Second brother, you're back. Grayson, who had just walked into the courtyard of the Reno Patriarch's house, shouted and ran over when he saw Jason. What he experienced at the Oliver auction house today and the usually extremely arrogant Calfield after waiting for others to be frustrated, Grayson admired Jason immensely. Unfortunately, the second brother did not let him talk nonsense. Grayson, who was extremely excited, could not find anyone to share his happiness with, so he could only feel happy secretly. Second brother, we've already had dinner. Let's ask someone to make arrangements for you. Jason waved his hand and asked Grayson to arrange for a servant to deliver some food to Wayne. He couldn't help but ask, Grayson, where is my father? Second uncle is sleeping in the back room. Grayson had a strange look on his face. Sleep? Why sleep so early? Jason was confused and walked into the house. Grayson said. As soon as he entered, he smelled an extremely strong smell of medicine filling the room. Jason suddenly felt it smelled like a healing potion. Jason was startled when he saw old Renaud lying on a bed in the house, with a sickly flush on his face, sleeping there. What's going on? Jason, who was afraid of waking up his father, grabbed Grayson beside him and walked outside the house and shouted sternly, with a look of anger on his face. Jason knew Renaud's body very well, so how could he get sick for no reason? Second brother, I don't know about the second uncle's health. It was already like this when I came back at noon. Grayson, who was grabbed hard by Jason and felt pain in his shoulder, couldn't help but have a look of fear on his face. Jason also felt that he was using too much force and scared Grayson, so he let go. By the way, I'll ask my uncle, he must know. Jason turned around and walked immediately towards Leo's room. Uncle, what's going on with my father's illness? As soon as he entered the room, before Leo could sit down, Jason asked with concern. Alas, Leo let out a long sigh. In Leo's words, Jason immediately understood the whole story. It turned out that after Jason left in the morning, Renaud had nothing to do and wandered around the family mansion. Renaud was full of nostalgia for this place where he had lived for decades. Unknowingly, Renaud walked to the place where he had lived. In front of that yard. At that time, Renaud became a 6th-level spiritual master at the age of 30, and was the #1 genius of the Todd family. Although he did not marry a wife at that time, his status in the family was extremely high, and the courtyard where he lived was also one of the best villas in the entire family. Just when Renaud was filled with emotions, he happened to be bumped into by Abel, who was returning to the hospital. Abel, who was the son of Claude and one of the most outstanding disciples of the family, wanted to inherit the position of the patriarch, but failed. Always under the aura of Renaud. Abel was also extremely jealous of Renaud's villa, which was much more luxurious than his own. After Renaud was expelled from the family, Abel took over the vacant villa. Now that the two of them met, Abel, who still did not become the leader of the clan in the end, felt resentful and actually asked the guards to kick Renaud out for trespassing into his own courtyard. During the pushing process, his body had been damaged over the years. Renaud, who was not as good as before, was pushed to the ground heavily, and due to the stagnation in his heart, he fell ill. If the second brother is a member of the family, then Abel's theory is not tenable. It's just that the second brother was expelled from the family, and I sigh. Speaking of this, Leo couldn't help but grow long. Sighed. Humph, disabled. Jason stood up suddenly, with an extremely angry look on his face. Jason, don't be impulsive. Leo, who was afraid that Jason might act impulsively, stood up quickly and comforted him. This Abel is a senior sect spiritual master and has a very high status in the family. Don't do that. Impulsive. Uncle, why was my father expelled from the family back then? Jason's eyes flashed and he said solemnly. Although from other people's words, Jason had understood little by little what happened to his father back then, but the whole thing Jason didn't know the complete story. Now, he wanted to ask clearly. This Leo showed a trace of hesitation on his face. Uncle. Jason said with a strong insistence in his tone. That's all, let me tell you. You will know sooner or later anyway. Leo sighed and said, this matter started after your father was promoted to the 6th-level spiritual master. Leo slowly said as he spoke, his eyes seemed to have returned to the past. Back then, after your father was promoted to the 6th level of spiritual master, he traveled around the continent with his heart set on martial arts. In an accident, your father saved a woman, and 2 people passed by. After getting along for a while, we developed feelings. This woman is your mother Yulia. At first, your father did not know your mother's identity. He only knew that your mother was extremely knowledgeable and experienced. She was obviously born in a noble family, but your father didn't think deeply about it at the time. He believed that the two of them could overcome all difficulties when they fell in love. Later, after your mother became pregnant with you, she told your father her identity. In fact, your mother is not from an ordinary family. She is an aristocratic family, but the Daos family, one of the four major families in the Cairo Empire, one of the four major empires in the mainland today. She is also the daughter of the current patriarch of the Daos family. In order to escape the marriage arranged by the family, she escaped from the family. Came out, only to meet your father. As one of the four major families in the Cairo Empire, the Daos family is extremely powerful. Although our Todd family is a big noble in the Kingdom of Orlando, in front of such a behemoth as the Daos family, it's just a small family. When people in the family knew your mother's identity, many people strongly opposed it. Fortunately, your father, your grandfather, was the patriarch of the family at that time and settled the matter against all objections. But I never thought that the Daos family knew the whereabouts of your mother from somewhere. For a big family like the Daos family, your mother's incident was simply a shame, so the Daos family sent people to request you. Your mother immediately returned to the family. Your mother was pregnant with you at that time, so how could she be willing? During this, the Daos family also had a conflict with our Todd family. Although the Daos family is strong, the Kingdom of Orlando is the base camp of our Todd family after all. Both sides after the conflict, everyone suffered casualties. Speaking of this, Leo's face already had a trace of sadness. My father, he was seriously injured by the Daos family in that conflict. Later, the Daos family even sent people to the palace to ask for help. His Majesty Leasant let him go, otherwise he would threaten to destroy the Kingdom of Orlando. And after the first battle, the Daos family even sent a powerful emperor, spiritual master. Under pressure from many aspects, the family finally compromised and expelled your father from the family. It was really a conflict between both parties. The difference in strength is too big. That strong man at the level of the Emperor Spiritual Master alone can sweep away our Todd family. In anger, the Daos family has destroyed your father's strength and wants to kill the newly born child. You and your father wanted to destroy the entire Todd family, but your mother forced her to die, so the Daos family compromised and left with your mother. It's just that after my father was seriously injured, he fell ill and passed away not long after. I was finally appointed as the patriarch. From then on, His Majesty Leasant began to suppress our Todd family. In the kingdom, each legion has reduced the number of members of our family, and at the same time increased the power of Deputy Commander Batat of the headquarters to control us. Now among some people in the royal city, the Radigan family and our family are known as the two most powerful families in the kingdom. There are even some people who think that the Radigan family will eventually replace our Todd family. Who is the Radigan family? They have only been in the kingdom for more than 10 years, and they want to be on equal footing with us. It is simply wishful thinking. Leo said harshly, but he also knew that over the years, the family's situation in the kingdom has become increasingly unoptimistic. After walking out of Leo's room, Jason's heart couldn't calm down for a long time. It turned out that his father's situation was so miserable back then. All this was just because his father was not strong enough back then. In this world where the strong are respected, only the strong are respected. Keep getting stronger so you won't be stepped on by others. Father, don't worry. I will definitely restore your strength and let you return to the family, that Daos family. I will also make him regret the decision he made back then. Jason had a trace of his face. Definitely, as for those Abel and Claude, Jason didn't take them to heart at all. For such clown-like characters, it won't be long before Jason will let them become real clowns. Back in his yard, the night was already deep. Jason did not practice as usual, but took out some simple medicinal materials to prepare the elixir. When preparing the sacred potion today, Jason discovered that when he is fully integrated into the preparation of the spiritual potion, he can not only improve his proficiency in preparing the spiritual potion, but also improve his cultivation, especially the growth of spiritual consciousness, and even it has reached between 10 times and dozens of times of his normal cultivation. In the middle of the night, Jason's spirit was completely integrated into the preparation of the elixir. What was different from usual was that in the past, when Jason was preparing some low-level elixirs, he didn't pay attention to them at all and just casually prepared them. But now, when Jason prepares any kind of elixir, even the first-level low-grade elixir, it is treated as the most difficult elixir to prepare, and every step consumes Jason's energy. In Jason's mind at this moment, all that was left in the world was the preparation of elixirs, the preparation bottle in front of him, and various low-level materials. He didn't sleep all night, and it wasn't until dawn the next day that Jason came back to his senses from preparing the elixir. Seeing the bottles of low-level elixirs in front of him, Jason discovered that every elixir in front of him, the potions have reached the most perfect state, even if they were prepared by the 9th-level Holy Spirit Master in the previous life. They would be nothing more than that. Feeling the obvious increase in spiritual awareness and active spiritual power in his body, Jason suddenly discovered that a brand new road was faintly appearing in front of him at this moment. Although it was not clear yet, Jason believed that it was just like the invention of spiritual power in his previous life. Just like the pharmacy technology stream, I will definitely be able to completely find this path and get to the end. Before taking a break, Jason called Grayson and asked him to go to the Oliver auction house to buy some basic materials and equipment necessary for an elixir. After Yenji learned from Grayson that Jason needed it, it took only half a day's work for a large number of instruments and materials to be delivered to Jason's yard by Oliver auction house, and then another half-day's work, under Jason's guidance. Next, a large-scale small laboratory appeared in front of Jason. So in the next 2 days, Jason stayed in the family's own yard without going out. Even eating was done in the laboratory. In addition to eating, he was constantly preparing elixirs and preparing elixirs. In the process, the spiritual power in the body is also intentionally released and added to the preparation of the spiritual potion until the spiritual power and spiritual consciousness are exhausted, the whole body is sore, and the head is swollen. Then rest, restore spiritual power and spiritual consciousness, and rest after that, prepare it, exhaust your spiritual energy and spiritual consciousness, and then rest. Wait until the day before the clan meeting starts. Leo asks Grayson to come over and inform Jason, and when Grayson calls Jason out of the laboratory, Jason, who had not showered for several days, appeared in front of Grayson with disheveled hair and dirty clothes, like a wild man, which shocked Grayson. After Grayson said that he would attend the clan meeting tomorrow, Jason just responded, slammed the door of the laboratory, and continued to prepare the elixir. I said, why is the second brother so strong? It turns out that he practices so hard. Looking at the closed door in front of him, Grayson's eyes lit up and his mind was agitated. He, who had always been unable to calm down, actually went back to practice hard. For a day, Leo was surprised, wondering what the hell this kid was crazy about.